My dad asked to borrow my car, then sells it. My ex lied to me about being divorced, so I ruined his reputation, marriage, and job in one blow. Okay, this is gonna be a long story, so bear with me.
Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started.
My dad asked to borrow my car, then sells it. This was a long time ago. I hardly have any contact with that part of the family anymore, but I do still talk to my dad once in a while. My dad needed a car for a while, so I loaned him mine. When I went to get the car back, the back end was smashed in. My dad tells me how he was at a red light and the car was rear-ended. Of course, I asked the normal questions about fault and insurance and everything else. He tells me the other guy's insurance company sent him a check for the damages, but it wasn't enough to cover the repairs. A lie. So he didn't have the car repaired. Instead, he spent the money. My dad and I have the same first and last name, but a different middle name. So it's easy to see how he could claim the car was his and have the check written to him. When I told my dad that he should have just let me know about the accident and let me handle the claim, he says, "Why should you get anything? You weren't in an accident. I was." We had an argument about this, but none of my dad's argument was even anywhere close to being valid. He also just wasn't hearing any of what I had to say. I asked my dad to leave the car at his house for a few days and said I would arrange to have it picked up and repaired. A couple of days later, I went to his house, but I didn't see the car, so I thought he wasn't home. When I knocked, he answered. My younger brother was also there, which was surprising because he was supposed to be away at college, which I was helping pay for. But that's another story. I told my dad I was there to pick up the car. He says that was impossible because he sold it. I asked him why he did that. He says, "You seemed so pissed off about the damage. I figured you just want me to go ahead and sell it so you didn't have to deal with that anymore." I was making payments on the car and asked my dad how he could have sold it without a title. He told me he just had a guy fill out a lost title form or something like that. I don't even know the details in it. I told him that I thought that was going to be a problem when the guy tries to register the car and finds out there's a line on a car. My dad says that's the buyer's problem, not mine. When I asked him how much he got for it, he told me he got $3,000. Even with the damage, it was worth closer to $7,000, but definitely no less than $5,000. I asked my dad for the money. He told me he already spent it. That he goes into his rant about how many bills he has and how he's even paying for my brother's college. Not true. Plus, my brother was sitting right there. He dropped out but didn't tell me, even though he kept cashing the checks I sent. I had very little contact with my parents after that, and I think I only actually saw them one time since then, which was around the time I got married. But not at the wedding because they refused to go. None of these was all that surprising, though. I never should have even loaned a car to my dad in the first place. My ex lied to me about being divorced, so I ruined his reputation, marriage, and job in one blow. Okay, this is gonna be a long story, so bear with me. When I was naive, 24 years old, met a charming and very smart and way older man. We call him Jake for the story. His sister is Dana and I'm Gina. Now to the story. Jake was 42, recently divorced, or so he told me, and got a kid that he would see the weekends. We meet online through a poetry website where both of us used to write. He was very aloof and stern in his comments, and not very popular on the website because he used to always come off like an arrogant prick. But I really liked his poems regardless of his personality, and that's how it began. I commented no one, and he instantly PM'd back praising my writing and asked me if we could collaborate and do it together. I've already done it 1,000 times with a few friends and people on the site that I respected, so I said sure. So long story short, we met on Hotmail Messenger. This was nearly 11 years ago, kids. So no WhatsApp, although we did chat on FB too. This will come relevant later. Long story short, we instantly connected. He was funny, handsome, and really sweet underneath all his bravado. And his dark sense of humor was right up my alley. We spent months pulling all-nighters just talking and writing together. Not humble bragging, but I was pretty popular in the site because I won a few awards, so by association he became popular too. People started to reading Jake's poems and commented, and obviously he got a huge head about it. But I digress. Our relationship became more serious after he confessed that he was falling for me and I was smitten. So I went along with it. We talked about my recent breakup and he assured me that he would never lie to me because of course, he used that. Which of his ex-wife cheated on him, and he was devastated until he met me. I was shocked for how bad her ex was, but assured him that I was all in, and I meant that. One important detail about our turbulent romance is that he was in South America. He's from there, and I was still living in Italy, in my hometown. So after almost 2 years of excuses for how tied up on works he was, I decided to surprise him with a visit. I bought my ticket, and it literally was like a dream. He picked me up, we kissed, hugged, and he took me to his beach house, which would have been my first red flag, but I was dumb, young, and in love. Saying that it would be so much easier and fun for me doing touristy stuff on the beach port than staying in his suburbs house with no car. Because I told him in such a short notice that he didn't have the time nor the means to take time off, which again, blatant lie because he was one of the partners of the company. But again, I bought it and off. I went on my own almost for the entire week that I was there. He only spent one night with me and the rest of the week just picked me up from whatever it was that I ended up wandering, and we hung out for a few hours, have sex, and then he just drops me off on a house. I know that most of you are thinking, come on, Opie, just get your head out of your arse and realize what a bunch of BS that is. And believe me, now writing this, I realize how much of an idiot I was. But it gets better. The day before, I have to get back to Italy. He took me to dinner with his 6-year-old son and his sister. I was super happy to meet his family and son, but got caught off guard when he just introduced me as his friend from Italy dropping on town for a tourist. Her sister was super sweet, albeit a bit awkward, and his son was adorable. We ate, talked, and off we went. He picked me up first thing in the morning and dropped me off in the airport. Now that you got the full story, I'll get to the good part. 2 days later, and still a bit jet lag, I get a very interesting email from his sister Diana. Her email was short and very simple. Dear Gina, I know that you might think I was weird and maybe a bit rude when we met, but it was only because I was tricked by Jay to join the dinner with his kid. He never mentioned that you guys were dating, but after confronting Jake, he confessed and begged not to tell anyone or his marriage will be ruined. But you're such a sweet and young girl that doesn't deserve his deceive. Jake is still married and never left their home. Don't take just my word of it. And Dana sent me pictures of his real FB profile and surprise, the perfect little family. I thanked her and shut down my computer. I was devastated. I really thought Jake was the love of my life and was seriously considering moving there. I spent all night crying and drinking wine until I gave myself the worst migraine. But the heartbreak lasted about 12 hours. At 4 a.m., I got up, shower, make a pot of fresh coffee, and started planning my revenge. I was hurt, yes, but also so angry that he not only deceived me, but dragged his sister and his innocent child in his lie. I was at the other side of the world and I didn't have the money to pay someone to kick his arse or egg his car. But it's my Sicilian father who said to me, if someone slaps you, don't turn the other cheek. Cut off their fucking hand. And so I did. Cue my sweet revenge. I sat down on my desk and turned on the computer and logged in his Hotmail. I didn't have the password, but I know him well enough to answer his 3 security questions on the section Forgot Password. 1, 2, 3. Bomb, baby. I'm in, and the hole is shitty. This arrogant piece of human crap was not only dating me, but other 2 girls. I quickly logged onto his FB too because he had everything linked. The naivety. So I quickly changed all his password. I'm a prick. And I discovered that his personal email was also connected to his work account. I dug through his email for 2 hours. This idiot never erased anything, so he had more than 5,000 emails until I found out something very interesting. The girls he was also seeing, their very hot email exchanges, dick pics included. So, what did I do? You guessed. I crafted a very lengthy and explicit email with pics and chat logs attached confessing to Jake's wife, posting as him obviously, begging for forgiveness and declaring how much of shitty person I was, and as a proof of my willingness to change and transparency, was sending this email to the girls too. But that I did it only because I was a closeted gay and thought that being a player would help me forget how much I really loved guys. That I was sick of pretending and hoped she could move on and maybe friends. But not only to them, I fucking copied his entire list of contacts, including the CEO and partners of the company he worked, his parents, and they, of course. This email was perfection. All the pictures and chats, myself included, had never exchanged with any other women. I copied myself on the list obviously as a countermeasure and moved on to part 2 of my plan. I changed all of his FB and declaring that I was so relieved that people finally knew who was I. The pride flag, his new wall picture, and his profile picture was a photoshopped picture of 2 guys kissing. I created 5 different accounts and a gay website with all his info, included his phone number, and started to chat with a bunch of guys until out of nowhere, this guy sent me, or better yet, he sent Jake a message. Tony was his old uni friend that had always been secretly lusting for him for years, and although I felt bad for this later, I set up a date